Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you the witch and cat stamps that will be available on HSN. These are the Stamps of Life products and they will be on the August show for HSN in 2020. So it comes with everything you see here. I went ahead and stamped them. You get this cute witch, this cat, which kind of looks like a mouse to me as well, broomstick, and some sentiments: trick or treat, happy Halloween, too cute to spook, and boo to you. I'm going to be making 2 cards on this tutorial with this set, so stay tuned. This first card is going to be a flip it card, and I went ahead and stamped out these images and I'm coloring them up with my Copic markers. I'm coloring the witch's hair, so I started out with some of the C colors. The C10 was the darkest shade, which goes at the top and bottom of each of those pieces of hair. Then I went into the C8, moving into the V17, which is in the violet section, and then V15 and ending with V12 as my lightest. So for each of those pieces of hair, I do the darkest all the way to the lightest, which meets in the middle. And as you can see, I'm making this witch have purple hair. And yes, the C colors, they do blend with the V colors. It just gives it a little bit of darker look. And then you can see the purple there in the middle, which I really like the way that this looks. So here I go ahead and zoom in just so you can see this a little bit better. For the skin, I am coloring her skin up green, so I'm laying down my lightest color first. And the lightest color is YG00. And then I take my G46, which is my darkest green, and I just outline her face as well as do some of her arms there. This color is G43. And I just go over the G46 and extend a little bit beyond. Then I come in with G40 and come over where the G43 ended and extend a little bit beyond that. And then I blend that last color out with the G20, and then finally just blend the rest together with that lightest color, the YG00. For her hat, I am using my C10 as my darkest, and I'm outlining the edges of the hat, and I'm going to have the shading in the middle, so that's where my lightest color is going to be. So from the C10, I go into my C9 and just extend that a little bit beyond, and then I go into my C8 and pick up where the C9 left off and extend it a little bit beyond more, and then I finally end with my C7, which is the lightest color that I'm using here, and you can see a little bit of that shading there in the middle. I am going to color her dress up in the same fashion and the same colors, and I did not mention earlier, but when you color with your Copic markers, you want to make sure that you're stamping this with an alcohol-friendly ink. And the ink that I'm using, or that I use to stamp these images, is the Spectrum Noir Alcohol Proof Finesse in Noir Black. And I will link these in my blog as well so you can see them. And then the paper that I'm using is the Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock, and that is for the alcohol marker coloring. If you just try to stamp these on regular cardstock and color these, you'd have more problems with the blending. You really need to be using the blendable cardstock, and there's others out there as well. You don't have to use this one, but there's others out there as well. So for the oranges, I'm using the YR09 as my darkest, and I come in on the ends, and then I'm going to come in with my lightest, which is the YR04 in the middle. Now for this image, notice that I did not color it twice. In other videos that I show my coloring, sometimes I do go back over it and color it a second time, and that's just because maybe the colors didn't blend as well, or I just want to make them look a little bit darker. So sometimes you'll see me do that and sometimes you won't. This color here for the broom is the E59. It's a different style Copic, and it doesn't have the color on the lid, so I just wrote those down. So it's the E59 and E57 that I'm using for the broom, and then the lightest color is the E53. Now this other stamp is a cat, and at first when I first looked at it, I thought it was a mouse. But it is a cat, and I do color it up, and because when you think of Halloween, you think of black cat, so I did color it with the same black markers as I colored her dress. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to music, and you can finish watching the coloring of the cat, and then I'll be back with my flip it card. I'm using the Circle Flip It die set, and these I love because I can make a quick and easy card with these flip its. So the actual card base was cut out of the kiwi cardstock, which you see there, and then those layering pieces. I tried to find some Stamps of Life. They don't have, unfortunately, a Halloween pad, but I tried to find some purples and oranges since those represent Halloween, and I found these in the stripes, and these are from the XOXO paper pad, and I think it worked out perfectly for this card. So I have the green, the orange, and the purple there, and I just inked up the edges of those layers with their corresponding inks. So I have the grape ink on that purple piece there, and then I did the tangerine ink on the orange piece, that the larger panel. And then I'm just going to glue these down to my flip it card. So when the flip it card actually comes out of your die cutting machine, you will fold it on those score lines that you see there, and just remember that the little side is always on the left. So you can see that the little side there is on the left, and then the larger side is always on the right. So I glue those down, and then for the middle piece, it does have this circle die. It's a scallop circle die, and I just die cut that out of the powdered sugar cardstock, and I inked it up with some kiwi ink. And then now here I stamped the Trick or Treat with the Forever Black ink and put it there on that scallop. And now I'm just adding that scallop circle to the middle of that Flip It card. Next, I'm going to take some kiwi ribbon and make a bow on the left side of that Flip It card. And after I tie it in a bow, I'm going to try and position it so that it is more vertical than horizontal. Otherwise, those ends of that bow would be over top of the sentiment, and you really wouldn't be able to see the sentiment. So here, after I snip it, I just kind of just maneuver it a little bit more just to make sure that it is more horizontal or vertical than horizontal. I'm going to go ahead and add this witch to the right panel, and I'm going to add the cat to the left panel, and then I'm going to take the broom so that it looks like it is positioned in this cat's hands. And there was too much white space after I die cut this broom, so here I'm just fussy cutting around it just to get rid of some of this white space, because I don't want all of that showing. And then I'm going to place this broom right in that cat's hands. I end up starting to fuss with this bow again, and I decide to add some hot glue underneath that bow just to keep it down so that it stays vertical rather than horizontal, so that I can see that sentiment on there. And then I find this little spider embellishment that I had in my stash. I probably got this from Joann's, and I thought it would be a perfect touch, so I just add some hot glue and put it there on the top of that bow. So that completes this card, and that was just a super quick, easy card, which that's why I love Flip It cards. If you ever need to make a card really quickly, just pull out your die set and voila, you have a card. I am going to be working with the birdhouse Fold It, and I'm going to make a haunted house out of it. I've already done some die cutting, and let me just tell you what I've done. So this is Stamps of Life product. I did previously do a birdhouse video, which I'll link below so you can see that if you want to see how to make it into a pretty birdhouse. But today I'm making it into a haunted birdhouse. So I took this layering die, this one here, and I die cut it out of the grape cardstock, which gives me these layers here. Let me scoot this up so you can see the 3 layers. Then I took this same die, I die cut it out of the storm cardstock. This is the dark gray, and that gave me all of these layers. As you can see, nothing's glued down yet because I'm going to do some ink blending. And I also took the same die, ran it through the die cutting machine under some banana cardstock. So that's going to be for the inside circles. And I also took this large die and die cut it on some black. This is the Licorice Stamps of Life cardstock. And right now I'm working with the layering piece, not the actual card base. And I will show you how to make the card base a little bit later. But let me go ahead and start decorating this and gluing it down. So I'm going to take some of this licorice ink. This is a black ink from the Stamps of Life.
And even though this is purple, I am going to put some black ink on this because, again, we want to make this a haunted feel, and I think having this black ink would make it look more haunted than having it ink blended in the purple ink. So I'm going to do that to all of my pieces. So even all of these gray pieces, these are going to have the black edges on them. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of these pieces, and I will be right back. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue all these pieces down. So when you are gluing them down, just make sure that they're in the order of where you want them. Now, I know some of you probably are saying, why didn't she use her Kiss Cut pad? And I'm still trying to figure that thing out. So I tried it with another folded card, and well, let's just say I'm still trying to figure it out. So once I have it figured out, I will use it. And right now I am just going to line everything up and just place everything where it should go using my glue. And I am using a repositional glue so it doesn't dry as quick. I'm going to be using my Tombow liquid glue. This glue does not dry as quickly as some of the other glues out there, so this actually is a good choice because if I don't get it in the right spot, I can actually reposition it and it's not going to be an issue. All right, so I'm going to start with this piece.
So in addition to the witch and the cat stamp, I'm also going to use this ghost, and I got this ghost from the Halloween to Build stamp set, and I'm just coloring it up with some of my light C markers. So I started out by outlining it in my C0, which is my darkest that I'm using, and then I come in with my C00, and then I bring in the blender and just blend those out. The blender will get rid of some of those rough edges where that color left off. And then I bring in my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen, which has glitter in it, and I just put some glitter over the whole thing just to add some sparkle to this ghost. I colored the witch and the cat off screen, a lot of the same coloring, only in different spots. I did use a different color orange for the oranges here, which is the E19, E08, and Y18, and I will link all the colors in my blog. I die cut a stitched rectangle out of the black cardstock, and I'm going to do some embossing. So I'm just going to put my static bag right over top of that just to make sure no residue stays on my rectangle after I do the embossing. And I'm going to use my Versamark ink, and I'm just inking up my stamp with the Versamark. I'm going to stamp this out. I'm using some white embossing powder. So I just heat set that, and now I'm going to put all these pieces on this birdhouse, and I kind of put them where I think I want them, and I think I'm going to put this sentiment just right down here below. So I'm going to start gluing these pieces down. Now with this broom, instead of using the shadow layer to cut it out, I used the layering die. That way I did not get any of the white on the outside because I wanted to put this right in this cat's hand. And then I'm going to put him on the roof. Next, I need to create my card base, which I did not do yet. So I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and I'm going to fold it in half. Just score it down the side and take your largest die
This is gonna open from the side. So we're just gonna place it so that the die is off to the left and you can see the fold in the cardstock right to the right of that die. And we're just going to add some washi tape just to hold this in place. And I'm using white cardstock because I don't want to have to, if you write a message on the inside, you'd have to use a white gel pen in order to see it on the black. So I'm going to use the white so it's easier to do that for the inside. So here's my card base. Now I'm just going to take this piece and put glue only on the back of the birdhouse. And then I'm going to open this up, lay this flat, and then line up the birdhouse with the white shadow layer or the white card base. And just press that down. And isn't that adorable? So turning the birdhouse into a little haunted house, adding the witch and the cat and then the ghost. And all the supplies will be linked in my blog, so you can head on down to the description box. You'll see a link to my blog and you'll be able to see all the supplies there. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Bye-bye.